Hey, what is up guys, Merganman4 here, and with Doctor Who's 60th anniversary just around the corner, I thought now would be the perfect time to celebrate some of the best this franchise has to offer. Like the 2nd and 7th Doctors before him, the 11th is a man of many shades, often putting on a silly, childlike persona that hid a darker, more manipulative side. Facing threats on both a personal and universal scale, and leading the show through its 50th anniversary, this is an era that covers a wide variety of stories and continued to expand just what Doctor Who could be. These are my top 10 11th Doctor stories. Number 10, The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone.
Can I speak to the Doctor, please?
Hello, Angels. What's your problem?
Your power will not last much longer, and the Angels will be with you shortly. Sorry, sir.
Why are you telling me this?
There's something the Angels are very keen you should know before the end.
Which is?
I died in fear.
I'm sorry?
You told me my fear would keep me alive, but I died afraid, in pain and alone. You made me trust you, and when it mattered, you let me down. Sorry, sir. The Angels were very keen for you to know that.
After the introduction that was Blink, any reappearance of the Weeping Angels had a tough act to follow. The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone is an admirable sequel, continuing to mine their horror potential to excellent effect, whilst also putting a new twist on them, keeping things fresh and upping the stakes in some unexpected ways. I really like how the Angels are recontextualized not just as hunters who kill to survive, but intelligent, malicious beings, ones who take pleasure in others' suffering. Their stealing of one of their victims' voices so that they can taunt the Doctor, trying to goad him into losing his cool, is brilliant, instantly giving the Angels much more depth and making their assault far more personal. Interestingly, despite being one of their core traits, their ability to send people through time is completely absent here. These Angels don't have the strength, so instead, they kill by brutally snapping their victims' necks. It completely changes the approach in fighting and surviving them. The setting of the Maze of the Dead and the Crashed Byzantium suits the Angels really well, and the revelation that the Doctor and co have trapped themselves in the middle of an Angel army, mistaking the degraded Angels for monuments to the dead Aplans, is a brilliant mid-story twist that completely changes the game. But this story isn't just a return for the Angels, but also River Song. Alex Kingston's chemistry with Matt Smith is impeccable, and her out-of-order relationship with the Doctor is built upon nicely. We don't get much in the way of answers, but there's a lot of intriguing setup to be paid off later. The same of which can be said of the Crack's reappearance, where we first learn of its ability to erase people from history. Thankfully, both of these elements are well weaved into the story and are an entertaining addition alongside the Angels. It's a really great story all round. Number 9, The Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang.
The cracks in time are the work of the Doctor, it is confirmed.
No, not me, the TARDIS, and I'm not in the TARDIS, am I?
Only the Doctor can pilot the TARDIS.
Please, listen to me.
You will be prevented.
Total event collapse, every sun will supernova at every moment in history. The whole universe will never have existed. Please listen to me!
Closing out Matt Smith's first season in style, The Pandorica Opens and The Big Bang is a big story, with higher stakes than ever before and an immensely satisfying culmination of the journey our leads have taken over the course of the series. The mystery of the Pandorica is a fantastic hook, a prison that races from across the universe have come looking for, and its opening. But the ultimate reveal that there's nothing inside, that it is in fact a trap for the Doctor, whom everyone believes is the cause of the cracks that are erasing the universe, is a brilliant twist. It's a lot of fun seeing all the Doctor's greatest enemies team up against him, however briefly, and the irony of them attempting to save the universe from the Doctor, in the process ensuring their own destruction, makes for one of the show's all-time greatest cliffhangers, as the Doctor becomes trapped and the universe is destroyed all around him. The Pandorica Opens also provides some excellent payoff to Rory's erasure earlier in the season, resurrected as an Auton duplicate, and Stephen Moffat milks it for all the dramatic potential it has when he discovers Amy doesn't remember him. The scenes between Amy and Rory as her memories begin to seep back before his Auton side takes over and forces him to kill her is a beautiful piece of dramatic irony that only enhances the already incredible cliffhanger. The Big Bang isn't quite as coherent as the previous part, but it also doesn't really matter, because it's still an immense amount of fun. The future Doctor coming back in time to get Rory to free him from the Pandorica being such a perfect prison that it holds the last remnants of the universe to restore it, the Doctor stuck on the wrong side of the crack, but River nudging Amy just enough to remember him back into existence. It all kind of just holds together by a thread, but hold together it does, and concludes the season on an upbeat note as Amy and Rory finally get married, and they all go off into the TARDIS together for further adventures. It isn't perfect, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a fantastic time. Number 8. The Doctor's Wife.
There's something I didn't get to say to you.
Goodbye.
No. I just wanted to say hello. Hello, Doctor. It's so very, very nice to meet you. Please.
I don't want you to.
The Doctor's Wife is one of those episodes that makes you think, how has no one ever done this before? Throughout all the Doctor's adventures, in every era, the Doctor has had one constant companion, the TARDIS. Oftentimes, it's treated as a mere plot device, and to be fair, that is its primary function, but over the years, it's been given aspects of personality and individuality. It isn't just a machine, but a being, and after nearly 50 years, this is the story that made the TARDIS flesh. Seeing the Doctor and the TARDIS being able to properly communicate after all this time is both heartwarming and heartbreaking, and Matt Smith and Saran Jones are spellbinding. Their farewell scene as the TARDIS soul returns to its rightful place is utterly beautiful, rivaling even the best companion departures. And man, does Matt Smith get a lot of great material to work with. Not just in his scenes with the TARDIS, but his hope when he thinks another Time Lord is out there, and his devastation upon discovering it was a trick, adding up to one of the best performances in the entire show. I'm also a big fan of the villain of the piece. House, a sentient asteroid, feeds on TARDISes, a fantastic concept for a villain, and upon learning the Doctor is the last Time Lord, embodies the TARDIS to escape his little bubble into the universe at large. Michael Sheen gives a wonderfully sinister performance, and there's some really terrifying material as Amy and Rory are trapped with House, separated from the Doctor. The TARDIS is historically one of the most reliable, safe spaces when it comes to Doctor Who, so to see it taken over and turned against them is extremely unsettling, and the hallucinations House conjures up, separating Amy and Rory, with Amy discovering a version of Rory left to die on his own, filled with hatred for her, is surprisingly dark and really throws her through the emotional ringer. The Doctor's Wife is a story bursting with creative ideas and emotional character work that beautifully builds off the show's long history. It's a widely celebrated story, and rightly so. Number 7. The Angels Take Manhattan.
Amy, what are you doing?
That gravestone, Rory's. There's room for one more name, isn't there?
What are you talking about? Back away from the angel. Come back to the TARDIS. We'll figure something out.
The angel, would it send me back to the same time to him?
I don't know. Nobody knows.
But it's my best shot, yeah?
No!
Doctor, shut up! Yes, yes, it is!
Amy!
Well then, I just have to blink, right?
No!
It'll be fine. I know it will. I'll be with him, like I should be. Me and Rory together.
I always find myself surprised by just how much I enjoy The Angels Take Manhattan. Not because it has a bad reputation per se, but I do think some of the criticisms tend to stand out more over time. Like the Statue of Liberty being a weeping angel, or the reason the Doctor's permanently cut off from Amy and Rory being a bit flimsy. But the thing is, when I'm actually watching the episode, I find I don't really care. No, what sticks out instead are all the brilliant aspects. The usage of River's song, the clever twist on the weeping angels, and of course Amy and Rory's exit. Let's start with River. By this point, she's well and truly established, and separated from the Silence arc, we're finally able to see the Doctor, River, Amy, and Rory as the very strange family unit they are. It's a complicated series of relationships, but they're a great deal of fun to watch, and it's immensely satisfying seeing River properly interacting with Amy and Rory as her parents, and the Doctor as her spouse. It's a really good use of the Weeping Angels as well, continuing to innovate them without straying too far from their original conception. The idea of them creating a paradox farm for them to endlessly feed off, trapping residents by forcing their past selves to witness their future selves' deaths before sending them back in time, is a natural progression from their past appearances, and we continue to explore them as beings of intellect and cunning rather than animals acting on instinct. This, of course, leads to Amy and Rory's final goodbye. Even if the logic doesn't fully hold, I love the idea of the Doctor reading a book only to discover it's about him and the events that are about to transpire, and that by reading too far ahead, they become locked into a specific future. And later, after sacrificing themselves to create a paradox that would defeat the Angels, it appears Amy and Rory escape after all, only for a straggler to zap Rory and leaving Amy with the ultimate choice, with the Doctor distraught and River encouraging her mother to take her chances to be with Rory again. It's a heartbreaking ending that leaves you with tears in your eyes, but not one without hope, as we learn Amy did live a full and happy life with Rory in the past, and we end on the Doctor paying a visit to young Amelia to tell her stories of what's to come, bringing their time in the TARDIS full circle in a perfect fairy tale way. I won't say that The Angels Take Manhattan is flawless, but I will say that what it gets right, it does extremely well, and I think it deserves a bit more credit than it gets. Number 6. A Town Called Mercy.
We could end this right now. We could save everyone right now.
This is not how we roll, and you know it. What's happened to you, Doctor? When did killing someone become an option?
Jex has to answer for his crimes.
And what then? Are you going to hunt down everyone who's made a gun or a bullet or a bomb?
But they keep coming back, don't you see? Every time I negotiate, I try to understand. Well, not today, no. Today, I honour the victims first. His, the Masters, the Daleks, all the people who died because of my mercy.
See, this is what happens when you travel alone for too long.
The last story isn't the only one I'd consider underrated. A Town Called Mercy really seems to fly under everyone else's radar, but I've always had a great time with it. It's a fun Doctor Who twist on the Western genre. The gunslinger is a fantastic design and an effective premise, a weapon of war hunting down his creators in revenge, the last of whom has landed on Earth and taken refuge in the town of Mercy. I really like how both the gunslinger and Caller Jex are steeped in shades of grey. What at first seems like a straightforward hunting down of the innocent is twisted on its head as the history between them is uncovered, and it puts the Doctor in a precarious position. Rarely have we seen him so full of rage, and Matt Smith gets some excellent material to sink his teeth into upon discovering the atrocities Caller Jex committed in the name of peace. Indeed, it's shocking to see things escalate to the Doctor holding Jex at gunpoint, unsure if he really would condemn him to death for his crimes. It's impossible not to draw parallels with the Doctor's own fight in the Time War, and his self-hatred for the acts he committed then. But the Doctor is pulled back and eventually decides to defend Jex. Not for his sake, but for the sake of the Sheriff, Isaac, who died to save Jex's life. And later, there's a fantastic scene where some of the townsfolk want to sacrifice Jex to the gunslinger, led by an 18-year-old, and the Doctor convinces them to lay down their arms to save their souls from unnecessary bloodshed. It's some great commentary on the Doctor, that despite who he strives to be, he needs people to challenge him and keep him in check, as he's reminded that protecting innocence is more important than vengeance. Ultimately, Caller Jex decides to end the conflict once and for all by sacrificing himself, prepared to face his demons in the afterlife, and ensuring the gunslinger's hunt for revenge can end. An extremely fun Western with a lot of heart and superb character work. A Town Called Mercy is often overlooked, but I can't help but love it. Number 5, The God Complex.
You started to praise it, didn't you? Rita, come back, please. We'll find a way to stop it, I swear to you.
No, I need to get as far away from you all as possible. I want you to do me one last favour, Doctor. I can feel the rapture approaching like a wave. I don't want you to witness this. I want you to remember me the way I was.
A hotel of horrors, every room containing someone's personal nightmare. What a fantastic concept. I love the aesthetic of the thing. An 80s hotel that you can't leave is a great setting, and I appreciate that the story isn't afraid to showcase all sorts of fears, from the legitimately terrifying to ones that seem downright silly. It offers a great variety and sets a different challenge for each character to overcome, although they also have a common enemy in the Minotaur, a being which, one by one, everyone starts to worship before eventually it kills them. The Doctor naturally assumes it's feeding on fear, and encourages everyone to dig into their deepest source of faith and belief to counter it. But I love how the story plays on the Doctor's assumption, as it transpires that faith is exactly what the creature needs. It's rare for the Doctor to not just get things wrong, but unwittingly place everyone in far more danger. And it's a refreshing upping of the stakes that works really well in my opinion. The God Complex is also bolstered by its great guest cast. Like with the Fears, there's a great variety of characters, from Howie the conspiracy theorist to Gibbous the cowardly alien to Rita, the clever and resourceful could-have-been companion. Her eventual succumbing to the creature hits by far the hardest, as the story does a great job of making you relate to her and root for her. It's made even more bitter by the story acting as an end to Amy and Rory's travels in the TARDIS. Yes, they ultimately end up staying a while longer, and while I do really love their eventual exit, the one they're given here, with the Doctor giving them up because he doesn't want to lead them to a premature death, is equally brilliant, and it's almost a shame this wasn't their final appearance, and Rita couldn't have taken their place. Ah well. Regardless, with some great character work and a genuinely frightening concept, the God Complex makes for a terrific episode. Number 4, The 11th Hour.
Is this world protected? But you're not the first lot to have come here. Oh, there have been so many. And what you've got to ask is, what happened to them? Hello. I'm the Doctor.
Doctor's first stories are a surprisingly inconsistent grouping, covering the entire spectrum of quality, or lack of. The 11th Hour is unequivocally one of the best, introducing the 11th Doctor with incredible skill and effortlessly setting up the season to come. Matt Smith is immediately charming, silly, clever, commanding. He owns the role right from the start. Similarly, Karen Gillan makes an effective debut as Amy Pond. I love Moffat's twist on introducing a new companion by having the Doctor meet her as a child, and because of the TARDIS still repairing itself, disappearing for 12 years rather than 5 minutes. It's a completely fresh Doctor-companion dynamic to have someone who's grown up with him as a sort of fairy tale figure, and the Doctor not only has to convince a stranger to trust him, but someone for whom that trust has already been broken. I also love how Moffat strips away all the Doctor's usual advantages. The TARDIS is on the blink, the sonic screwdriver gets destroyed, and the Doctor has a 20-minute countdown to save the world entirely with his wits. It's a brilliant way to show what this new Doctor is capable of on his own, and having him bring back the aliens to scold them even after the day is saved is a bold move that gives us one of the most iconic I'm the Doctor moments the show has ever seen. Plus, it sets up the series arc of the Cracks quite nicely, and introduces us to Amy's boyfriend and soon-to-be companion, Rory, whom I absolutely love. His flustered, bumbling nature is such a perfect foil to Amy and the 11th Doctor, and I'm glad this dynamic got the chance to shine later on. The 11th Hour is a startlingly effective Doctor debut and series opener that's rarely been matched before or since. Number 3, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon.
You didn't have to kill her. She couldn't even remember you. How does that work? We can only remember you while we're seeing you, is that it?
You will tell the Doctor
Tell him what?
what he must know, and what he must never know.
How do you know about that?
Tell him.
Space, 1969. It's surprising how little Doctor Who has done with one of the most influential events in human history, but it's hard to think of a better usage than The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. Kicking off Series 6 in electric fashion, this is a story that pulls no punches. We begin by literally watching the Doctor die, but before he does, he gathers Amy, Rory, River, and his past self to investigate the circumstances around the moon landing. It's an incredible way to start the season, and while it's debatable how successful the eventual resolution is, its introduction here is sublime, and there's some great tension to be had as Amy in particular grapples with being unable to tell him about his future fate. But aside from the series arc, this story is a fantastically atmospheric and terrifying tale filled with monsters and conspiracies. The Silents are an ingenious creation, and are, in my opinion, quite possibly the scariest monsters to ever grace the series. The skull-like face in those wrinkled black suits is a striking image, and their main gimmick, that no one can remember them once they've looked away, is extremely well utilized. It's a really scary prospect to have to fight a threat you don't even remember you're fighting, and I really appreciate that the Doctor is just as vulnerable as his human companions. The story also plays up the conspiracy angle by using the Silents' mind-wiping as a way of brainwashing. It transpires that they've been with humanity every step of the way and have been guiding them without their knowledge to help them achieve their own goals. This story also boasts an incredibly clever resolution, with the Doctor utilizing the moon landing against them by inserting a clip of the Silents saying humanity should kill them all on sight. A message seen across the world and encouraging humanity to rise up without ever even realizing it. The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon is a story that has stuck with me ever since broadcast. One of the cleverest, one of the scariest, one of the best. Number 2, Amy's Choice.
Amy, want to take a guess at what that is?
Dream Lord, he creates dreams.
Dreams, delusions, cheap tricks.
And what about the gooseberry here? Does he get a guess?
Listen, mate, if anyone's the gooseberry round here, it's the Doctor.
Well, there's a delusion I'm not responsible for.
No, he is. Isn't he, Amy?
Oh, Amy, you have to sort your men out. Choose, even.
I have chosen. Of course. I've chosen. Is you stupid?
Oh, good, thanks.
Pitting the Doctor, Amy, and Rory against a formidable foe known only as the Dream Lord, Amy's Choice is a superb showing for all 3 of Series 5's main cast, really getting at the core of their unique relationships and providing us with one of the show's best ever one-off threats. So why don't we start there? Toby Jones is simply magnetic as the Dream Lord, a deliberate mockery of the Doctor who wants to put each member of the TARDIS crew to the test. This takes literal form in the dream scenarios he concocts, each with its own deadly threat, as he challenges the team to correctly identify what's fake and what's reality. It's a terrifying prospect, made all the more challenging by the 2 options being tailored to Rory and the Doctor's ideal life, Rory settling down with Amy and the Doctor continuing his travels with them both, leaving Amy stuck in the middle to choose. And indeed, it's an apt metaphor for the implied love triangle that runs throughout the season, with both the Doctor and Rory vying for Amy's attention. And while the dream aspect gives the story a unique flavor, and ends with a clever twist that the Dream Lord lied and that both scenarios were dreams in an attempt to trap them forever, the story's true heart lies with the Dream Lord's testing of everyone's strength of character, knowing all the right buttons to push and getting in their heads. It's a brilliant examination of them all. The Doctor with his guilt for how he leaves his friends and never looks back, and indeed the darkness that thrives within him despite his efforts to cover it up. Rory with his undying dedication to Amy and determination to do what's right despite his own shortcomings. And Amy, with the 2 men in the universe she loves more than anything else, and who both offer her a vastly different life. But ultimately, she chooses Rory. It's a shocking moment to see Rory actually killed. Okay, I know, he ends up dying quite a lot, but this was the first time. And as soon as she faces the prospect of life without him, she just can't bear it, deciding that that has to be the dream world, because if it isn't, she doesn't want to live it anyway. That's some powerful stuff, and, well, thankfully she's right, but it speaks to her own dedication to Rory and how he doesn't have to be some incredible spaceman to be important. It's a brilliant combination of plot and character work where both aspects shine. Amy's Choice is nothing short of top-tier Doctor Who. And before we reach my number 1 11th Doctor story, let's take a quick look at some honourable mentions which very nearly made the cut. Regeneration Impossible, The Inheritance, The Snowman, A Good Man Goes to War, The Girl Who Waited. Number 1, The Day of the Doctor.
Isn't it time, said the Doctor, that we turned our enemy's choice of weaponry against them? That is our MO, is it not? We are the Doctor, after all. His ears hummed, the blood stood still in his veins, and he nearly dropped the sphere. That was it. That was what had changed. But when did he start doing that? When had he started calling himself the Doctor again?
It's the 50th anniversary special, but probably not the one you were expecting. The televised version of The Day of the Doctor is fantastic. A celebration of the Doctor as a character, the person who always strives for a peaceful solution against all odds, delving into his darkest day and allowing him a second chance to do things right. We have Daleks and Zygons and Unit, David Tennant and Matt Smith wonderfully bouncing off each other, and John friggin' Hurt as the warrior who lost everything, including himself. And the novelization somehow takes all of this and makes it even better. It incorporates the 8th Doctor minisode, The Night of the Doctor, gives us appearances of River Song and the Brigadier, expands upon the roles of past and future Doctors in the Saving of Gallifrey. But above all, the real star of the show is how the novel's told. It's not a straightforward retelling, but one that frequently bounces between perspectives in a way that simply wouldn't be possible on screen. Something especially effective when you have 3 versions of the same character around. In particular, I love how this is used when the 3 Doctors are trapped in the Tower of London, and we go through the scene 3 separate times, each time emphasizing different details and revealing new understandings as the Doctor himself experiences it for the first, second, and third time. But what's particularly special about this novelization is the interludes between chapters, which makes you, the reader, an active participant. encouraging you to guess whose perspective each chapter is told from, until near the end it's revealed these interludes are from the curator, who, in the midst of talking to you, accidentally gets himself involved in the actual story. If I were to have one complaint, it's that in classic Stephen Moffat fashion, he can sometimes be a little too indulgent. But that's a very minor complaint, because also in classic Stephen Moffat fashion, this is a brilliant new take on an existing story that expands upon it and gives you plenty of new insight, whilst also being incredibly witty and clever along the way. And that's my big takeaway from this. It's very clearly the same story, but it's a completely different experience, but equally, if not more so, filled to the brim with joy and fun and excitement. It's hard to think of a better celebration than this. But what do you think? Were there any surprise conclusions? Did I leave out your top choice? Let me know what your favorite 11th Doctor stories are down in the comments below. And with that, Merganman4 over and out, and I'll see you all next time with my top 10 12th Doctor stories.